edition of Discovering Auto Treasures, and we are also introducing some very interesting people who have some incredible ideas when it comes to building autos, and we're going to share that with you in a minute. I'd like to introduce John and Sue. We are here at their shop to see their auto treasures. So John, how did you get involved in autos and hot rods when you were a kid?
Well, it goes back to when I was a teenager here in Vernon, and had some friends that were in cars, and I was always interested in cars. I had two 48 Mercs when I was 15 years old, but didn't have a place to work on them. Didn't have the money or time, and then one thing led to another. And I had a pretty interesting car back in 1965. I took a 64 Valiant and put a complete 383 running gear out of a wrecked 65 Flurry. And it was one of the fastest cars in the Okanagan for 2 or 3 years. We had a lot of fun with that car. And then one thing led to another. I met my wife and we had 3 kids.
He didn't have the car at the time.
No.
We were still paying for it, but anyway.
But I was interested in cars all along. You know how life goes, and you have a family and you move on and that. And so when I retired, which I was fortunate enough to be able to retire at 55, and we still had a farm in Alberta because we moved there in 76. I said to my wife, I said, I really want to build something from scratch. I've always wanted to do that. I have the time. I had a beautiful shop that I converted a barn after we sold the cattle into a shop. So I said, I want you to be in on this with me. So I said, we can buy a vehicle, as you know, for half or a quarter what you can build them for. And so I said, I don't care what we buy. She said, well, I've always liked the little old trucks. Well, anyways, I started looking, and that's when I found that 35 Chevy pickup, if you remember. And we had it for 11 years, just sold it last fall. Anyway, so after we had it for a couple of years, did some car shows and drove around a bit and stuff. So I said to her, at that time we'd been married for, I don't know, 48 years or something, and I said, what would the fight be if we got a divorce? She said, that little truck's mine. Then I knew I was good to go on this build, eh? And I always liked the Tri-5 pickup trucks, so I found a 56, this is a 56, and the cab was absolutely immaculate. So I bought the truck, numbers matching, tore it all apart. And that's where this started. Did you have any help in designing this, or did you just, what did you do?
Well, getting back to when he's talked about buying the 56, I grew up and learned to drive a 49 Chevy pickup truck, and so that was always a little bit looking mean that way. But I said, okay, you can have the 56, but I picked the color.
Okay.
But we both agreed on the color.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, so basically we designed the interior, I did the interior work and just made it our own. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Susie did all the upholstery inside, and
So,
I never was a big fan of the V, the speedometer and the gauges in the Tri-5 trucks. So if you look, I made my whole new dash.
Okay.
And every panel has 4 brass screws that comes out. I do never crawl underneath there to do any wiring.
Yeah.
Now I hope I don't ever have to do any wiring, because I was very fussy doing the wiring. The console that's in there has got a million wires in the mouth there. So anyway, so it's a truck that I started with an Art Morrison chassis. And built up it was a builder's chassis, which meant that all of the mounts had to be put into place. I had to build the engine mounts, the body mounts. Moved the cab back 1.5 inches from stock because the wheel doesn't look right when they're lowered. Ended up with a 2-inch longer wheelbase. And I also put a trailer hitch in it. If you look at the rear bumper I built from scratch. And the license plate lifts up and there's a place to put in a receiver, right? Okay, this is your new build, and you've started this how long ago?
Basically 2 years to this day.
2 years?
Yeah, it was the end of August, and I found an ad. A guy had 2 Chrysler cars for sale. One was a 4-door, one was a 2-door. And in my mind, I thought, well, the two-door will work to make kind of like a roadster, eh? So we went down to Costin, he was down out in South of Caribbean. And the two-door had doors about that long, and I thought, no, that's not gonna look right, eh? So I started looking over the four-door sedan and thinking in my mind what I can do. And so I bought it, brought it home, and started chopping. Took the back.
It was just a rust.
It was rough shape. Took the back off and brought it up and started playing with the length and that. And one of the things that you got to remember when you're building a hot rod from scratch, you better get the seats to start with. The seats, because they determine where you sit and the length of your feet and everything, and you can design around that to make it comfortable. Because that's really the reason I wanted to build this, because the other one wasn't comfortable. And the Chrysler body is 8 inches wider in your shoulders than the Fords or the Chevs were in that same year. So it's quite a bit bigger to start with, which made it a lot easier to get the room. And so it was a project that I wanted to do, and I wanted to do everything myself, literally. And the only thing that we haven't done ourselves is put the top on. And
awesome. What motor is this in here?
it's a remanufactured engine out of the States, built by Blue Point. It's a 350, got a mild cam in it, running 9.5 to 1 compression. It's running right around 325 horse, which is plenty for this little car. And it's got the Vortex cast heads on it, which I wanted because with the pipes hanging on there, I wasn't comfortable with that with aluminum heads.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And I also, on this build, not only did I want to build it all myself, but I also wanted to incorporate some of the things that I've done in my life as far as working careers and that. So if you look at the front bumper here, you'll see that it's made from 2 snowmobile skis. Cut in the center and welded, so these are the tips of the snowmobile skis, okay?
Yes.
That all came about because from 1968 to 1974, I was the service manager for Bombardier in British Columbia, working for a company here in Vernon called Alpine Distributors. And part of my job was to have a racing team, and I also raced myself. So we had a lot of snowmobile experience in those years, and that represents that era in my life. And the 5 brass buttons are to represent our 5 grandchildren.
That's right.
That's really cool.
4 granddaughters,
Really
1 grandson.
Yeah. And of course, because it is it does have a pickup box and it's a Chrysler, I had to put the Ram on the front.
Right. I seen that earlier. Yeah.
And this is the original Chrysler emblem, and this is the original hood that was on it.
Wow.
Everything has been chopped off 6 inches. I had to take 6 inches off the bottom of the body and off of this because it was completely rusted out. Which was quite a challenge, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of work.
And I see your interior is not quite finished, so
No.
are you going to be doing the interior?
I am. I've, because the seats are still in pretty good shape, we're not going to panic on getting those upholstered at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll finish the interior, but I'll probably do the seats this winter.
My gas tank, I was trying to decide what I could use for that, and it kind of all came to light one night. This is a tank converted into a gas tank from a nitrogen tank. A nitrogen holds liquid nitrogen, which is extremely cold, one of the coldest things that we know of. And we stored frozen bull semen and embryos and everything to do, because I did artificial insemination and that. So this is a converted semen tank, nitrogen tank into a gas tank.
Ah, awesome. What a
So
story.
that kind of represents that era, and we've got a leather belt that's going to go around where the weld is, and I have a brass buckle that goes on there, and it has the breed on there of the cattle we raised.
Awesome. Awesome.
The back bumper, as you can see, is 5 pistons, which represents we have 5 people in our family. Yeah, so it just all kind of came together and everything. And of course, I built the chassis from scratch, which is probably the easiest chassis to build. It's one for like a T-bucket hot rod kind of a thing. And it's a straight chassis, it doesn't angle or anything like that. Just regular coil over 3-link suspension, not 4. If you look at what's in here, there's an old car club plaque in there. It says Scavengers Car Club. That club was started here in Vernon in 1960. And I joined it in 1961. And it was an active car club as such for up until the late 60s. And there's still, I can't remember, is there 11 of us that live in Vernon? And we still get together once or twice a month and have, it's kind of a social club now. There's only 2 of us left in the car club that are still working on cars.
Yeah. This was just started after the cam jammers, I guess.
It did.
Yes.
Not too long after.
Right.
Yeah. Cam jammers were our competition back in
Yes,
those
yes.
days. And the Scavengers name kind of was because we were just ordinary teenagers with no money and driving any piece of junk we could get a hold of it. But I thought, you know, Scavengers kind of goes good with this hot rod and the fact it's kind of made up with a lot of different stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But it's been a lot of fun building it. It's been a lot of fun. And we're looking forward to driving it.
Yeah, you were telling me about your yard art that you have built, and maybe you can explain some of this. It looks pretty interesting.
Well, it's just kind of a hobby and putting junk together basically and making different things. If you look at this, these are made out of rocker arms on the engine. And these 2 pieces here are actually manifold pieces off of a 283 from a Corvette. I'm not sure where the camshaft came from, and this is a little distributor, and you know, some gears here and there to make the flowers. And I made this cat for my wife's birthday here last year, and if you look at what it says COVID the cat, because it's during the COVID era.
Yeah.
And that usually sits on our front porch. This I made for a friend of ours that passed away. And as you can see, it's made up of automotive parts, horseshoes, camshafts again, a torque converter, and some shovels. He had a little farm out here and was also in the automotive business, so that kind of represented him. And here's another thing I made for my wife for her garden. It's a crab. So these are pieces off of a railroad tracks. I'm not sure what they do, but they hold something down the track, a pulley and a couple of horseshoes to make the claws.
Yeah,
just have a lot of fun, eh?
A couple black eyes there.
Yeah, just have a lot of fun. This is quite similar to what that little tea bucket that we had when we bought it, and I was always trying to figure out what I was going to do here on this wall to kind of make it look like a hot rod shop. So we were up at the dump one day, and here was an electric scooter. And it had these wheels, it had the shock absorbers. If you look at the back, it's got coilover shocks on the back.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. So I got the wrenches out and robbed it. Got a little bit of static from the dump, but anyways, we got that figured out. And the rest of it's just put together with stuff. Actually, this piece here is part of a hood fan over top of the stove. The fan finally crapped out, we put a new one in, so I cut it down to size, and that's what this is made of. And I put a set of solar lights in it, so at nighttime these lights light up, the headlights come on.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, it's been kind of cool. We've had it sitting here for 3 or 4 years. And
So did Sue do the upholstery?
she did. You betcha. And you see,
Very nice.
You see what she sewed in here? She's got the little Chevy emblem in it.
Oh, the Chevy emblem, it is right there, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, this is my youngest son's project that I'm going to help him with, and we'll do most of the build here. It started out as a 48 Dodge, or actually a 48 Fargo pickup truck that's been chopped, and we're putting it on a 1993 Dodge diesel Cummins. And so the front end right now, the motor is sitting in here, everything. So I've just got the cab sitting on the body, and as you can see, I had to chop a bunch of the firewall out to get the motor to fit in there.
Yeah, wow.
So the whole front end, the suspension, the chassis will remain the same. But from the cab back, I'm gonna make a new frame, and it'll be 4-link coilover rear suspension. Because I have to shorten it anyways for the box. So that's a pretty big project. I figure it's probably gonna be at least 3 years.
I just had a friend of ours, he sent us a little note and he said, I'm supposed to ask John, with all the talking you do, John, how do you get anything done?
Well, I guess that's $1 million question, you know. I mean, anybody that knows me, I like to talk, and I learn a lot from other people. I remember my grandpa telling me when I was about 9 years old, he said, John, you don't live long enough to learn from your own mistakes. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. And he's 100% right.
Right on.
So you have to observe other people a lot. Even though I might be talking, I'm still looking and thinking.
Yeah. And you knew who that came from.
I know who it is. Good friend, I appreciate it because he knows me too well.
Thank you very much for having us out here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
It's
Yeah.
been a pleasure.
Yes.
I'd like to say that we got, this has been another edition of Discovering Auto Treasures. So just keep on building and keep on collecting.